Here we go again. More space engineers. After a short excursion and I harvested a crashed satellite, I kind of bumped into some stuff and, well, did quite a bit of damage to my grinding ship. Things were on fire. So, we're trying to sort out why and how we did that. Blew up 2 gyroscopes. Thing has 4, kind of spread out around the ship. Gyroscopes control your pitch, turn control. Got most of our small reactors still online. This one in the back right here was smoking. I think we still have gyroscopes. Maybe we should check, huh? Yeah, we still have some gyroscopes. I kind of slammed it into the deck a little bit, destroyed the landing gear, but I didn't think it did that much damage. Maybe it did. So after some examining, the cockpit is also not connected to conveyor belted up, so it can't like give us oxygen or hydrogen. So when we're in the field, we can't refill our hydrogen bottles and our hydrogen supply for our jetpack. Some of these armor plates, I think, are colliding with the thrusters and causing damage somewhere, but I can't quite figure out where. Man, this is where another person would make it a little easier. And we have a 3D projection of an older design that I had, lifter shuttle. And this is a ground to space transport shuttle with lots of facilities. And it has all 3 kinds of thrusters. So it has the atmospheric thrusters, which only work in atmosphere and run completely off of power. Which you've seen me use on these other ships. They have like this kind of white floofy flame. Then there's these ion thrusters, which only work in space, and they have this blue kind of glow to them. And then there are hydrogen thrusters. There are these guys, and they need to be connected via conveyor belts, and they use hydrogen as a fuel source. They're pretty much more powerful than the other types of thrusters, but requiring fuel instead of power. You pay for that power because you have to have a fuel for it. But this 3D projection is fully interactable, not by me and by the build and repair systems, which you see sparking stuff around. So if we wanted to, we can find a block that's actually connected to something. Where? Okay, we got, no, these thrusters. So we can weld this block. And by welding that one, it should now be connected to the other one here. And then that one, and that one. And you kind of get the idea. As long as they are connected, they become real. So you can see how, like, the large ship over here, if all these grinders were welders, you just kind of stick your face into it, sort of like I'm doing with my little welding torch here. And fully loaded with appropriate components, you can weld up the ship just like I'm doing right now, but on a much, much larger scale. So there, we've made those few blocks real. And the build and repair system will continue to slowly work on everything. I've got 5 build and repair systems. Got a few down here, 3 down here, and then 2 in the main base. But you can see that scale just starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Because this is what I would consider a very small space faring vessel. Now, you can make them a lot smaller, don't get me wrong, but this is a large grid and it is meant to sustain in space. So it has medical facilities, it has cryopod, uh, lots and lots of batteries, a respawn point. Um, yeah, it's it's meant for travel between a base on a planet and either a space station or uh, a larger ship or whatever in space. So while it's working on that, I'm going to go back over here and look at this big behemoth and see if I can figure out what went wrong. That is too close. This thruster is definitely colliding with this panel and this panel. So what is that panel? Is it purely cosmetic? This one is purely cosmetic. This one can be removed. Come on. Alright. How about that one? That is a half block. And probably isn't holding anything up. Alright. So, standard rule for thrusters is they need 2 blocks of clearance. So it needs this block and this block to not do any damage to anything. So in my haste to kind of beautify this ugly pig, I have blocked some of the thrusters. So it was basically doing damage to itself as it flew around. Now, hopefully nothing will fall off when I remove these blocks. Okay, so far so good. This is an intake, and it does not need any clearance. I kind of feel like intakes should need 1 block of clearance, but intakes don't need any clearance, so we're good there. So hopefully that'll fix that up, and it won't be sparking itself to death. We can go ahead and replace the gyros that we removed. It doesn't really matter how these are placed as long as they're connected to something that isn't a thruster intake. That should be fine. Alright, so that one's fixed up. We also added a beacon. Without a beacon or antenna, there is no way to see your ships outside of visual. So this is the beacon here. And it's a beacon. It's glowing light. And it emits a signal. Beacon 2. Without that, or a waypoint, like the base here is marked with a static waypoint. So I can always find it. And these smaller ships both have antenna. I think the Butterball here has antenna. I know my Spin to Win has one. You can even see it right above the cockpit there. Right there, the little radar dish looking thing. So, we've also added some windows and fancified things a little bit. Not quite done. Not sure if I like how it looks with the inset, so it looks better from the inside, or like this, where it's lined up with the outside wall. Because, it doesn't matter for air tightness. I'm not sure if it actually matters one way or the other, but it doesn't matter for air tightness since I'm here on like an Earth-type planet. Meteor showers are turned off, or I would have to put up some gun turrets of some kind to defend against the meteors, or a combination of making a large hangar um, to help shield some of the ships and stuff from meteors. But you can see that scale just keeps getting bigger and bigger. This is pretty much what we started with. We started with just a platform with some things to hold stuff, cargo containers, and a refinery, and a assembler, just to manufacture some stuff. Made this ship, So we got a fairly small ship. Then I should have probably just torn that thing apart, but we got this one, which is, I don't want to say twice the size, but it has twice the amount of stuff packed into it. Um, this has a lot of steel blocks, which are just dead space. This doesn't have very many steel blocks. It just kind of has an exterior frame, exterior kind of square frame, and everything else is there's a ton of components. There are some square pieces of framework in the center to hold up the thrusters and whatnot, but for the most part, that is made of components. That is, I don't know, 30% steel blocks, support, and 70% components. This one, on the other end, is more like 70% steel blocks and 30% components. So it's not a very complex ship. And next, we move to this, which is just an absolute monstrosity. It's very ugly too. I can't make it pretty. It just does a job. It fulfills a role that is needed. Um, so just for a sense of scale here, we'll fly up a little bit, and we're getting to the point where our ship is about the same size as our base building. So we've got a long way to go on this one, but this should be a full facility ship. It also has a warp drive, letting me travel around in the vastness of space a bit better. You can see two ventilators here. We're going to need to change out these doors, I think, for actual rotary airlock doors, since we're going to use this mostly in space. We can also explore the planet with it a bit. The only problem is this thing doesn't have any drills on it. It does have an ore detector, which is right here in front of me, but it doesn't have any drills. And it also doesn't really have any conveyors all the way out in front here. So there's no good way to put drills on it. So what we're going to need is a very, 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 very small mining ship. So what I may do is I may set up this other one here with a hydrogen only battery powered miner, which is very, very, very small. The only problem is if I build it here on the planet, it doesn't have enough thrust to move around, so it can't even take off. If it was like on the moon, which has less gravity, it would be able to fly around just fine. And currently this ship is being held up completely by this one block and the landing gear. So let's go land this big behemoth so it stops using power. And we're landed. Power's off. Alright. So there's a lot of design problems with this one that need to be cleaned up. Like the has a hydrogen engine buried somewhere in there, which ate all my hydrogen. So I couldn't refuel my jetpack stuff. The cockpit is not connected, so there's no way to refuel my hydrogen. There's no respawn point on it. So I don't dare take it too terribly far, so I'll probably just end up breaking it down and or stripping it down and trying again. Like there is some space on the bottom here that could add some stuff, but I don't know. Don't have any ideas for it right now. And after harvesting the few ships that were within 10, 20 kilometer radius, it's paid for itself because it saves a lot of time, but I don't need it anymore. So I could use a lot of those components and a lot of the components that this giant monstrosity that has harvested to either enhance this thing or try and come up with another build design. Let's get up in here. So with the triple thruster combination, It allows this ship to carry large loads into space and then function for extended periods while it's out in space. There we go. Yeah. Alright. So I got a few cargo containers. What is this? Regular assembler. It's been quite a while since I've used this thing. Gravity generator. Regular doors. Can you finish up to the cockpit, please? Maybe I can just use one of these. No fuel, yes, I know. Gonna have to turn a lot of the thrusters on and off, but the cockpit should have settings, buttons already set up for that. Did that last time. Off, off. Let's turn all our thrusters off. There we go. That's a little quieter. Still chunk, tunk, tunk, chunk, tunk. Making a lot of noise assembling the ship here. So I either have to figure out how to pipe conveyors to the front of the ship, or, and fix that block because it's not covering the battery. And is it same on this side? It is same on that side. Figure out how to get conveyors to the front of the ship for drills, or make that small mining ship. But I need to pretty much make it here, break it down so I have all the parts for it, and then take it with me to space. With the hope of finding a platinum and uranium asteroids. Those are space-only resources. This is not the prettiest ship either, but again, my designs tend to improve over time as opposed to being real nice right away. So we can make, I'm going to help out the build and repair system a little bit here. It's probably low on components because it's assembled most of the ship already. But we're going to have to stock this thing with ice so it can make hydrogen fuel for itself. Connect up. Does this thing even have a connector? No? Only on the bottom. Okay. Connect up the ship to the station so I can steal some of the hydrogen from the station here and fill it with something to give it power. I have a bunch of uranium still on me. I've gone through and balanced out the uranium reactors in spin to win and saws here, or teeth, or whatever I called it. But yeah, so won't be doing that today because that's a time-consuming process to restock the ship here. But soon, soon, then we'll head to space and go check some stuff out and go look around. So if you watched this, watched all of this, thanks for watching.